Hey everyone, welcome to another Crusade rated video for Seaside Mirai, and in this one we're going to talk about my final team doing as much damage as possible on the boss, and yeah, we'll discuss the team lineup and also the uses for all these units. Alright, so first off, we're actually doing a one round kill, right? So that's why there's no tank here, and actually we're running 2 DPS. So the reason why we're running 2 DPS is because Bolina does the most damage on this boss at R10. I think at R4 she's pretty comparable to a lot of the like dodge damage DPS, but at max rank she is still the best unit despite the boss being a dodge boss. And I found that if I do, if I load up Bolina with all the buffs, and then I run her as the solo DPS, she'll actually one-shot the boss, and the amount of overkill that she's doing will out DPS any of the dodge damage, the anti-dodge units such as Charlissa and Pressure, if they were doing like a solo run or having like even like a 2 DPS setup with those units. Bolina still out damages all of them, even without doing, trying to reduce the health with a second DPS. So of course that would just mean that it's just better to run 2 DPS with some sort of dodge, anti-dodge unit, trying to reduce the health as much as possible, and then let Bolina do the overkill damage. Alright, so then I designed a team around having 2 DPS, so that's why we're running both Tina and Maybelle. Tina, of course, is not as efficient as Maybelle for Bolina, so we'll use Tina on the Charlissa. And the amount of buffs that Tina gives is quite significant. Of course, that's going to give you the best value for a single support unit. And then beyond that, we try to run some supports that will splash their buffs onto both DPS. And then otherwise, it's more efficient to put anything that can only get reach one unit would be targeting Bolina, because of course Bolina does the most damage. So in this case, early Nay and Aevati will target both of the DPS. Nay's targeting doesn't look correct here, but she actually just targets herself. That's why she's standing in between these two. And then Aevati will buff the Tina, which will splash onto these two. Now, one thing to note is that Nay is ideal in slot 1 because everyone else has a 9-turn buff aside from like Maybelle. So all these the AoE buffers, they won't last long enough if they are in position 1. Because if I had an extra turn, then I could just swap Nay with Zhaowu, and then that will allow Zhaowu to target Nay, right? And then there's double buffs on the 2 DPS. But if I do this, because the boss is eating up one of the turns, the Zhaowu buff will run out before Bolina gets a turn, right? It will be just disappeared. So that's why you need to swap them around like this, and just give up on Zhaowu buffing both of them, right? Zhaowu still buffs Bolina, and on position 2 she will last long enough. You have one more turn on Zhaowu's buff at this point. And then Aevati will do both, and then the 2 diagonal buffers, which are Dorothy and Fleur, will then target like this and this to hit Bolina. And of course the Maybelle is single target, so she will buff the Bolina there. And yeah, because we're doing everything in one turn, the boss, even though she will get a turn, she charges up on the turn on that turn, right? And therefore she'll never do damage to anything on your team. That's why there's no need to worry about your positioning or having any appropriate tank either for the boss, if you're able to do a strategy like this and kill it in one round. Alright, so I'm gonna start the battle. I'm gonna slow it down a tad just because it's quite quick. Right? It's only one round. And you can see what's happening, right? So we got a couple of buffs here. Oh, lagged a little bit, I think. Yeah, single target on Charlissa, and she'll do about just under half health, about 40% or 45%, and then everyone else will buff Bolina, and then Bolina will do a big chunk at the end. Alright, I'll speed this part up now. So then it's just under 4 mil. And then this is the final score, right? And then times 3 will be the final score, which is a bit above 8 mil. Yeah, and it's a little bit hard to see, but because the scores are kind of blending into Mirai's face, but the scores are very consistent. There's no variation here, so it's a pretty consistent run. And yeah, that pretty much covers this boss. So I hope that is interesting to watch at least. You may not be able to copy the whole team. I will just show a little bit more about the ranks. I'll probably put all this in the description as well, just so that you can reference it. But most of these units are max skilled. The only exceptions are Aevati doesn't need max skill. I think at rank 8 she gets the maximum buffs for at least the ones that are relevant for the boss. Charlissa is rank 10, and of course Bolina is rank 10 as well. Now both of these use just the standard DPS cores. So basically you would need 2 maximum damage sets, so 1 flat attack and 1 percentage attack on each one. Otherwise, the rest of them don't care about cores at all. All the supports, you can just run them naked if you want. Yeah, nothing. Even if you equip them with cores, it won't affect the actual battle. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You will need over limits, of course. So over limit is on Fleur and Maybelle for this. You will notice that Franca is not used here, and I just couldn't find a way to make use of Franca over like the crit damage buffers, right? Because Franca also is only a 6-turn buff, which means that she would have to splash for pretty much for Bolina, right? It's unlikely that you'll splash both of these, because I mean technically you could run Franca to buff both, but I don't think it's really worth it. I think Tina is better here, and yeah, because Franca doesn't really give that much benefit to Bolina anyway, so that's why she's not in this team. So anyway, that's all I have for this video. Hope that's helpful and at least interesting to watch. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, of course, in the comments. And yeah, I'll leave it there. See you in the next one. Bye bye.